Listeners, are you ready for your monthly literary adventure? We now have the BFF Book Club. Join us each month to explore a new book. After reading, connect with fellow book lovers and meet the author in a live interview. Can't make it live? Don't worry. We'll send you the recording. You can find all the upcoming book club selections at www.bookishflights.com/read/BFF book club. Hi, I'm Cara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights. In each episode, I chat with one bookish guest as we take some time to sample and savor the pairing recommendations from their bookish flight. We hope to give you suggestions to cultivate your TBR list and nurture your leisure time through books. There is an unspoken rule of being an author. If you can't find the book you want to read, write it. That's exactly what Stephanie Storm did. Now she prides herself on creating unique stories in action-packed worlds full of strong female characters and inclusivity. Her books include plot twists that will keep you on the edge of your seat and a touch of romance too. With the stories being fast-paced, she always tries to keep the books focused on being a quick and easy read. Now based in Amsterdam with her husband, Stephanie spends her days immersed in the world of technology at her day job. In her spare time, you can find her planning her next travel adventure, going to bar classes, and writing the next story in her very intense publishing schedule. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm so glad I redid that bio because I only did that in November. So I'm so glad you caught that one because the old one was so outdated.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I always ask that at the beginning because, I mean, like anybody, right? We don't always get things updated, right? In our mind, we do, but it doesn't always make it to the website. So I usually always ask, but I guess I didn't with
fully
you. Yeah.
sharing. I love that. Great minds.
Yeah. Well, and in saying this, I also feel like you're so much more than this bio. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
So I love that you asked that question. So I'm originally from Cape Town, South Africa. As I said in my bio, I now live in Amsterdam. I am a product manager by day, so that is a digital product manager. And I'm just a very adventurous person. I obviously have my husband. We've been together for 14 years in total. I think married for 5. I'm very bad with anniversaries. Don't about that. And yeah, we're just building this little community for ourselves in Amsterdam, where it's obviously where all the expats are, and it's the happiest I've been in a long time. I think Amsterdam has truly become my home.
I love that. Did you guys move for work originally?
Yeah, so it was something we always wanted to try. It was
Okay.
kind of like a question mark at the time. My first choice was Berlin, believe it or not. It was
Okay.
my husband that was pushing for Amsterdam. I had only visited once in 2019 for 5 days. I moved my life across the world.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, this is no small move.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
It is quite something. So we always knew because of my job that that was going to be our in, and we were right. And I had 2 job offers that were kind of in the works around the time. And we just basically said, whichever one makes the offer first, we're going to go with. The reason why my husband was pushing for Amsterdam is because he is a field hockey coach. And here, hockey is like a religion. I kid you not.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I see like 4-year-olds with hockey sticks in their hands, and I mean, it's wild. Like,
Yeah.
because kids don't understand, and then they're like hitting with hockey sticks, and we're like, Dad, that's a weapon. So yeah, that's why he was pushing for Amsterdam, but he was right. I love it here, and I'm really glad we didn't end up in Berlin. So it all worked out.
Yeah. Oh, I love that for you too. And it makes me think of how our journeys, we never know where we're going to go, right? Like we never know where we're going to end up and the surprise that life brings us.
And you know what? If you're open to it, I find, at least in my experience, if you don't overthink it too much, because that's where I find we really start to limit ourselves, so to speak. If you just kind of embrace the opportunities, and I'm not trying to be like all Yoda and things like that, you will be amazed where you end up. And I think that's a very big mindset that we've tried to keep. So as we say to each other now, say yes now, figure out how to do it later.
Yeah.
And that's something that served us really well.
Yeah. I think then you give time for like the doubts and fears and all of the things to creep in, and you get mired in this indecisive state for sure. Yes. Well, you have your the Titan Syndicate series, and the first book of the series came out this past October, and your next one is coming out. Tell me the release date.
September, 11th of September,
Okay.
the of the Damned. So we have the Rule of the Damned.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, all my titles are very intentional.
Okay. Oh,
There, so I had this,
spoiler.
yeah. So I had this debate once with a friend in the industry where she was of the opinion that only romantasy could do foreshadowing, so to speak. Okay. And I was like, really? Are you sure? Because everything, and I know I'm not the only urban fantasy author that does this, everything that I do, I'm dropping hints all the time. Like you guys just need to question it as the reader.
We need to be
And
paying attention.
I mean, I know specifically with the Rule of the Damned, I left a lot of unopened or a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, it's the first book in the series, duh.
Sure.
Um, and a lot of those questions are going to be answered now in the Clash of the Damned. And when I answer them, aka a plot twist, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it was there staring me in the face all the time. Because like I'm dropping hints left, right, and center all the time.
Yeah. So as an author, would you recommend? Because I always think like, okay, we read this book and then the next one comes out like a year later in the series. Would you recommend like we go back and reread it maybe right before September
Yes,
11th?
100% yes.
Okay.
Because I was actually I have I have a network of author friends, you know,
Sure.
we banded together. But I think specifically as urban fantasy girlies, we've developed a bit of a close bond because being in urban fantasy is hard. Because I reference romantasy, it is the number one genre for a
Oh,
reason.
yeah.
People want romantasy, which is great because I read it too, but it's not all I read.
Yeah.
And so specifically with us as urban, we do have romantic subplots, 100%, but it's just not the primary focus. And there's specifically one part, and I'll tell you which part, the prologue of The Rule of the Damned, which is set a few hundred years before the opening of The Rule of the Damned.
Okay.
There's a very specific reason for it, which is going to be answered in the Clash of the Damned. And I actually think it is some of my best work to date, but
Woohoo.
drag.
Yeah.
But that prologue, it's had a very mixed reaction from readers, where some of them are like, give me a prequel series about the originals. That's what they've been dubbed, the originals.
Okay.
Okay. FYI, I am planning to do in a few years' time, but that's
Give me
years time.
time.
Yeah. But then we have some other readers that have been a little bit thrown about why are we set a few hundred years before the opening of the book to like a modern day Chicago, because that's where the Rule of the Damned is set. So yeah, you're going to get a lot of answers in the Clash of the Damned. I'll just leave it
Yeah.
there.
All right. So definitely go back, reread it before September 11th, and then you get the Clash of the Damned.
And then I'll add another step to that. So one of the marketing strategies that I have been trying out, I have written 4 bonus chapters. So I have 4 main characters in the Rule of the Damned, so one for each family.
Sure. Okay.
And it is exclusive to my newsletter subscribers. And these chapters can be read completely independently. You don't need to read the series, but you will see references of the events of these chapters throughout the series as well. So like it's just it's a bonus.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful to read as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And now that you're talking, I'm like, I don't know how many authors I've had that have written series, but I love to see the intentionality behind what you do.
I think it's something that a lot of people underestimate, at least in my experience. We don't just randomly spit words out on a page like
And
it's
hope it
so
fits.
random. And like if I showed you I call it my wiki, okay? So each series has its own wiki. The amount of world building I do in that wiki first, before I even look at writing, I need to understand this world that I'm writing in. So this is not a spoiler. When I came up with the idea of the supernatural mafia, I had to answer the question of, okay, how did they become the supernatural mafia? You don't just simply appear. Like even magic has its limits. Um, So then I needed to go through research of mythical monsters because that's one of my tropes.
Sure.
So each supernatural family descends from a mythical monster. So think Dracula, Van Helsing, all of those.
Okay.
By the way, a witch one was really hard to find, like so hard. I
Wow.
eventually ended on, and I didn't know I was pronouncing it wrong at first, Hecate, the Greek goddess of witchcraft.
Okay.
Okay, so that's who I ended up on. So then I had to use her witchcraft and then kind of build out, and this partially ties into the prologue I was talking about, build out how did she create the supernaturals, but why did she create the
Yeah.
supernaturals? Because we all know Greek mythology is a completely separate thing. It's kind of stepping away from that. So like these are all the things that you think of before you even begin to write.
Wow. That gives me
Yeah.
just a whole new level of appreciation for all that you do. How long would you say that time period is? Is like this planning, research, structuring, learning?
That's a good question because I find the more I write, the more it evolves. So
Okay.
I'll tell you what, in the beginning, when I knew nothing, um, I was producing 3 books a year, which is doable for me. Keep in mind, I have no kids, I just have a day job,
Sure.
so it's doable. Okay. But it was starting to burn me out because it was literally going from right, publish, right,
Yeah.
like there was no breathing room.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I hired a book coach. And I still go back to her regularly because it's great to have someone to brainstorm this with, someone that understands your brand, someone that has your back, someone that wants to see you
Sure.
succeed, but also has industry knowledge that you just don't have access to. So yeah, so if I look at Vanessa Rasanen, I think I pronounced her surname correctly there, I'm not sure. She produces 1 book per year and she's built herself an incredible following. If you have a look at her Instagram account, she has something like 21K plus followers, but
Wow.
like really engaged followers, and she's hitting Amazon bestsellers list. She's got people like wanting to get onto her art teams. And if she can do it, with only 1 book per
Yeah.
year, that kind of gives me the permission as an indie author that it's okay if I take it down a notch. So sure, I can do 3. I know what I am
Yeah.
capable of, but I don't have to. And
Yeah.
that distinction was really important for me. So now I've also learned during this, in the beginning, are you familiar with the term plotter versus pantser?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was a heavy plotter in the beginning. Like I'm talking meticulous because I am a very organized personality.
Okay.
I think the saying is type A. Type
Yeah.
A?
Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the term, but I've heard it a few times. And then the more I started writing, The Rule of the Damned was actually the book that taught me embrace the pensive side of things. So the ending that you've got in The Rule of the Damned is very different to what I had originally planned
I
because
love
the
that.
character took over and I pantsed it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really, and even after I wrote it the first time, I looked at it and I was like, did that just happen? And I realized how crazy it sounds because like this is coming from my head.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you, at least for me, start embracing those things. So I would definitely say I'm a hybrid. I have a timeline I want to kind of work towards,
Sure.
but there's flexibility within that timeline. So if I do want to kind of embrace a random thought and see where it ends up, or if I want to take a week off, it's okay. It's not
Yeah.
going to derail anything. And I think that balance for me is really important.
Yeah. I also see, not that I am a writer, but I also see when I'm not like in that hustle of like, okay, back to you being 3 books a year, right? When you're not hustling, it allows you to step back and be a bit more creative, right? It's like you can feel like you have this space to step away. And then I have this flush of ideas, right? And mine's more around the podcast or things like that. But it versus when I'm just trying to grind it out, you don't have even time to think about that.
Correct. So, and I'll give you another example. So content creation is obviously a huge part of what we do as indie
Yeah.
authors. I try to balance it with things about my books, fun little audio trains with a spin on my books, writing tips I've learned. But then I also just have fun with it. So I plan my content quite far in advance. So I think now my content is done until end Jan, early Feb. Yeah, so I always
I
try
like
and do
that.
that.
Yeah.
So I always try and stay ahead so that if I feel burnt out from creating content, it's okay. It's not going to derail anything.
Yeah.
But right now, it is so much fun for me. Where I'm go, oh, that's a cool train. I want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
be part of the fun. So I think that giving yourself that room to figure out what makes you happy and what, I mean, because at the end of the day, we wrote because we enjoy it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we hope to turn it into a career. Most authors do full time, and step
Sure.
away from the life.
Yeah.
At its core, we started it because we had a story to tell and it made us happy. The moment that changes, you have to pause and ask yourself why.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking as you were talking about content creation, because it's obviously similar to podcasting. I think just being authentic, right? Like what feels good to you? It doesn't have to be what XYZ, person is doing. It has to be what is authentic to you.
So I will tell you that there's another author, Jessica Taylor. I follow a lot of romantasy authors because I love their vibe.
Yeah.
And if you go look at her grid on Instagram, it is just when you look at something and you just go, ah, that's so beautiful. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
Like her content has that effect. And I have a feeling she's got some kind of design-ish background or something in the
Yeah.
creative sphere. But even then, never once does it seem like content is a chore for her because the content she produces is so beautiful. And like I've personally found a lot of it really inspiring because I'm going, hey, if she can do this, why can't I put my spin on it and do something similar?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It does help from like, helping like get ideas, right? Or seeing what work is working for other people. I think that's important too. So, well, for listeners that might not have read Rule of the Damned, The Clash of the Dam is part of the Titan Syndicate series. For listeners that may not have picked it up yet, can you tell them a little bit about the series, entice them to go grab it?
Listeners can expect from the Rule of the Damned. We're talking a supernatural mafia. If you ever watched the TV series Supernatural, okay, this is where the inspiration came from. There was one episode called Bloodlines. It was supposed to be a backdoor pilot into a spin-off series centered on the supernatural mafia. They went with different supernaturals than I did, but same concept. And then it never got picked up. And I was like, why? This is brilliant. I would watch this. This is great. Okay. And then a few seasons later, they had another episode about the Stein family. Okay. Frankenstein's family, by the way.
Ah, okay.
And I looked at this and I was like, this is incredible. I was like, give me more on this family. And then they gave us one more episode, like half a season there, and I was like, really? I was like, really? Like, why? So between that and then my love for the Vampire Diaries TV show, not books, and
Yeah.
Gossip Girl TV show, not books, the original, I was like, I just kind of put this all into my version in the Rule of the Dam. So Jude, she is a druid. We know it as a shapeshifter.
Okay.
She's in the druid family. She gets called back from university because her sister was murdered. And there's this whole mystery about why was her sister murdered? Who murdered her sister? Because they're at the top of the food chain. They are living in this rich and luxurious lifestyle. They have everything they want. They just need to keep their magic like a
Sure.
secret from human society. They are living very much a gossip girl type of life in the lap of luxury. So while these people that seem to have everything, that seem to have everything, seem so unhappy.
Yeah.
So that's really what the first book spends a lot of time establishing and a strategy for me. And we do answer who murdered the sister, by the way, in book one. Like
Okay. So they're not
that
a
plot,
giant cliffhanger waiting
correct.
for you.
So that plot point does definitely get answered, and there's very good reasons for why. I'll tell you that much. But there is an overarching plot that I'm also working through in the series. So book two has its own plot point. But we do kind of meet the people for book two's plot in book one already. It's
Okay.
just maybe not that obvious. Yeah, so we're gonna deal with modern day witch hunters in book two.
Ooh,
That's going to be, yeah,
I love
that's
it.
been something really interesting to play out because I actually finished the first draft of The Clash of the Damned on my holiday. I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to take a break, but I was like, I want to write. I miss writing. And then I just smashed it out.
Yeah. And
So
you're on holiday, so you have nothing. Well, I'm sure you have other things calling you, but like your job's not calling you, and other responsibilities, right, are pulling you that way.
I swear when the characters take over, you have to listen
Yeah.
because it's like you're just like, I can't type fast enough. Let's go. And I mean, it was a 3 week holiday, and there were some days where I was writing like 2 or 3 chapters. And obviously, this was in between, sometimes we were staying at home and like just chilling,
Sure.
like a Boxing Day, the 26th of December. And then there are other days where I just woke up before the house did. So I was like, I may as well make productive use of the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, you just take each day as it comes. And that's what I did.
Impressive. Well, what have you learned about yourself through writing?
Don't underestimate myself and what I'm capable of. Um, and I think one of the things and again, it was the rule of the dam that taught me this. I'm really good with plot twists, like really, really good. And I really underestimated my ability to do that, but it's not just like a random plot twist out of nowhere. Like it all
Sure.
kind of ties together in a way
Yeah.
that makes um and I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome, especially in the beginning, because I am a self-taught writer. I wasn't one of those people that was like, oh, I'm going to write for since I was a child. I
Yeah.
was just like, I'm a bookworm. Yes, in the sense of I'm reading an insane amount of books per year, and I've been like that since a child, but like that's about it. And a lot of the things that I had to learn through writing books. So if you look at my first book versus The Rule of the Dam, which was my most recent
Sure.
release one, um, the difference in my writing style is night and day. But as my book coach reminds me, all writers go through that, where you look at someone like Sarah J. Maas. Okay, let's just
Sure.
use her because she's a popular
Yeah.
example. The way I understand it, Throne of Glass was her first series. I think she wrote that when she was 16 or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Versus, yeah, versus Akatar and obviously Crescent City are her more recent series. And if you compare them, you can definitely see a difference in writing style.
Yeah.
So every author goes through it.
Everybody.
Like I'm
Yeah.
not unique in that aspect. But I think because I'm a bit different with how I approach certain things, I got a little bit of grief from some of my author friends. Let's go with that term. Um, oh, you're not doing this enough. You're not doing that enough. And I was like, guys, you're actually starting to get into my head now, and you're starting to make me doubt myself. I need you to not do that. Like, it's okay if you don't like my writing. That's fine. You
Yeah.
can't please everyone. But telling me I'm essentially not good enough to, according to your standards, that's not a good look.
Yeah.
So I also
Oh,
learning through that way. Yeah.
yeah.
I also learned through that in a way to set boundaries respectfully.
Yeah.
Um, because I think that respectfully part is really, really important. Um, and also speak up for myself because a lot of the time it's so easy to just accept it because like you don't want to cause friction or whatever, whatever, whatever. But I was like, no, this is not okay.
Yeah.
And it got so bad to a point of where I almost deleted everything last year.
Oh,
That's how
wow.
bad it got. Yeah. And it was actually my book coach and another friend that talked me off the ledge, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then when I released The Rule of the Damned, I'll never forget one of my ARC readers messaged me to tell me, thank you for getting me out of my book slump.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then another one, a trans ARC reader. I think she's trans. I could be wrong. It's very hard to see from her profile picture. Um, she said in her review, it was the first time that she felt like she was represented, not just in some random side character thing, as an actual main character. And I was like,
Yeah.
I matter, like I matter, and that message is so important. And I
Yeah.
make people feel like they matter. And if it's just one person, that's okay. I don't need to be this best-selling author right now. Right now, I just write for fun.
Yeah.
So that's been a very big lesson for me.
Yeah. I think that you've already mentioned it, and think all of us, I think it could benefit if we just go back to why did we start doing whatever it is we are doing in the first place and go back and remind ourselves why we started when we, not when we did, but like for the reasons why we did.
And you know what, for me, writing and reading kind of fall into the same category of where it's an escape.
Yeah.
Okay. And I very rarely read outside of fantasy. Fantasy is like I'm a ride or die fantasy girly. I don't discriminate from the subgenres. You want to give me urban, epic, romantasy, dark, like I read it all.
Yeah.
Okay. But for me, as we said in my bio at the beginning, there's a certain type of fantasy book that I'm really wanting to read right now. And that's why I'm like, okay, I can't find it. I may as well create it.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun coming up with these worlds. And it's almost addictive. Okay, like I honestly have enough ideas to stay writing until 2030. And I'm not being dramatic when I
Wow.
say, because like I will randomly see something and I'll be like, oh, that would be a good TV series. But then wait, what would that look like in a book series? And your brain starts
Yeah.
going into like a spiral. I mean, my next series is inspired by Dexter and Criminal Minds. You
I'd love
know,
that. That's gonna be up my alley.
that is, I promise you, like I have a whole, I call it like a scratch pad of notes of like things that I want to work into that. And it's so much fun to write it. Like that is the joy for me of writing.
Yeah.
And sure, sales is great. I'm never going to deny that one.
Yeah.
But for me, making that connection with other readers so that they see themselves in my story, or they feel represented, or they feel heard, or it got them out of a book slump. Another reader said one of my books last year, I think it was last year, was the book of the year for her. Like things like
Wow.
that, you go, I did that. Like
Yeah.
I did that with my words. And that was really cool.
Yeah. And it just like allows you to keep going, right? It like boosts you enough to be like, let's keep doing
Correct.
this. Well,
Correct.
was there a book that you read and you're like, you know what? I want to be a writer.
So I'm gonna reference, oh, there's so many. I mean, if I showed you what my Kindle library looked like, you know, it's like asking a parent to pick their favorite
Sure,
child.
sure.
Um, but Karen Lynch. So when I got into the bookstagram space, I didn't understand the difference with YA. I just read books because I enjoyed them.
Yeah.
So Karen Lynch's YA series, I would say it's more upper YA, the Relentless series, the first three. I still reread that series today. I
I
have
love it.
lost count of how many times I have reread that series because the blend of cool characters, unique world building, fast-paced action, and there is a plot twist that happens, and it's built up over the first three books that I
Okay.
looked at, and I was like, holy, I was like, what just happened? But like in the best way.
Yeah.
And I looked at Karen Lynch and I was like, if I could be an author, that's the kind of author I want to be.
I love that.
So yeah.
Yeah, I had someone come on. This was earlier on in the show, and she said, I put down the book and I thought, why am I not writing? And so it just gave me this like, well, I bet other authors, I mean, maybe not all the time, but I'm like, I bet you had this moment of like, well, why am I not doing this? So,
And you know what, it is so true. And I think especially I would say I don't want to say bigger because that's maybe not the right way to frame it, but the more successful indie authors, they're breaking a lot of barriers for us right now. And they're determining a lot of trends in the industry. And I find that so inspiring because sure, we start writing because
sure.
we're inspired by people like Karen Lynch, but to keep writing, that's a completely different subject, in my opinion. And then you get the successful indie authors that are paving the way for the little people like us. And that to me is really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like you keep coming back to the community piece of that, right? And whether that's the ones you talk to or the ones that you see or the ones in your space. And I think that's so important to have that community.
I will tell you that some of my closest friends are the people that I have met in the bookish community. It's My editor, she knows she's never allowed to leave me. And she knows that I am always to get first priority to her schedule because of said 2030 publishing
Yeah.
schedule. But the way we have become friends outside of the editing part, and we're able to keep the two separate. So, sometimes they say don't
Yeah.
mix friends and business. With her, it works. Um, and my close group of author friends, the way we lift each other up, it's the most beautiful thing ever. And sometimes we just go, I need to moan today. I need to feel sorry to myself. And we're like, okay, cool, let's have a pity party. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's good vibes. And I know one of my author friends yesterday, she was stuck on a plot point. Now, I obviously haven't read the book. She hasn't published it yet. Um, but we started brainstorming about why she's stuck with it, and we found an angle for her that she could run with, obviously,
Yeah.
in her way. I'm like, that to me is priceless. Like that is going to beat any sale, any award or whatever. It's the legacy we leave as people first.
Yeah.
No one can take that away from you.
Yeah. And the people that make it, right? The people that make our life even better, enrich it.
Totally.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about who you are as a reader. So you've already kind of mentioned you're a ride or die fantasy girly, but do you read other genres? What other genres do you love?
So I just read Grave Matter by Karina Hale. My first Karina Hale book ever. She's a multi-genre author. She's one of the big indie authors I was talking about that has
Yeah.
paved the way. She's actually hybrid.
Okay.
I looked at Grave Matter and I was like, why have I taken so long to read her work? She's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had
That
that
was
so
a
many
fun one.
times.
Yeah. And then I found out she has like an 80 plus backlist, and I was like, jackpot. I love that. When you
Wow.
find an author that has such a big backlist, you're like, yes,
Yep.
I win. So Grave Matter was more of a thriller, just like a normal thriller kind of
Okay.
vibe. I do read romance. You really have to work on me to read romance because if you do the whole, oh, I can't live without him, I get a little bit irritated by it. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. Let's give me something else to work with. Like I'll do it, but I'm gonna dig my heels in the ground about it. With that being said, I have read Emily McIntyre's Never After series, the first
Yeah.
two books,
Okay.
because I think Emily as an author is just she's inspiring. Like she
Yeah.
is incredible, and she's also hilarious. Like if you see some of the reels she posts, she has a sense of humor. It's quite dark, but like it's hilarious. So I was like, okay, I have to read her books because she's just making me interested. But yeah, other than that, I stick to fantasy.
Okay.
Some people say to me, "Oh, you should read a biography," and I was like, "No, no, thank you. I'm good."
Reading is my escape. So, and I think that's so, you bring up a great point of, a lot of people, when people come and say, well, I'm not a reader. And I always think, I'm like, you just haven't found the right book for you, i.e., then
Correct.
the genre that works for you. I think you force yourself, well, so and so is reading this, or I should be reading to learn, or whatever it may be. And that just doesn't work for you. And that's okay to recognize, but you try something else.
So you mentioned that. So I mentioned I was a product manager by day. There's a lot of product management related books
Yeah.
in our industry that we should, I would say, brush up on. Okay, it's relevant theory. I bought some of them and I've never been more bored in my life.
Yeah.
I got like that's the quickest I've ever finished it. Like, what's it? Do not finish yet.
Yeah.
5
DNF.
I'm finishing. I'm done. I was like, I'm sorry. I look at this during the day. Why would I want to look at this in my free time as well? So
Yeah.
yeah, I had to learn very early on that I am not that reader.
Yeah. And I think that it's important, right? Just learn what works for you, and then I think that you will just continue to hone your reading path and you'll know what you love. Well, how in your busyness do you find time to read? Because you're writing, you work a day job, you're trying to be, not trying to be, but you're all the things.
So where there's a will, there's a way. Remember that. Okay. So now when I came back from brunch with my one friend, I had I'd say a long tram ride, but like decent enough. So that's like 20 plus minutes.
Yeah.
I read.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people are like, oh, book trophies, which is great, but it's not very practical.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
So
can't carry
that's
them
why
on the tram.
Correct. But like if I'm on the tram, I can just open my Kindle app and I can read, let's say, a chapter or two while I'm waiting. I may have missed a bus stop or a tram stop in between, but hey, that's fine. You
Yeah.
figure it out. So it's just really about if you find yourself waiting, read.
Yeah.
That's really what I do. So like on the plane, when I went on holiday now, I mean that was like 16 hours. Of course, I didn't read the full 16 hours one way,
Yeah.
but I spent, I would say, good 2 to 3 hours reading. I finished, I think, 2 books.
Wow.
Obviously, I had started them, but I finished two
Yeah.
books on them. So like you get creative. You time manage. Well, at least that's what I do.
Yeah. And I always say, don't be afraid of like that 5 minute pocket, right? But you have to have the book with you, right? So, but like you said, the Kindle app can be really helpful for that. But it's like, don't be afraid of like, oh yeah, I'm waiting for the bus. So I have 5 minutes. Just grab
Yeah.
the book.
It was something another author once said, which I really resonated with and I loved. A lot of the time we tend to fixate on the things that we aren't. Okay, so oh, I'm not a morning person. We have
Yeah.
that conversation. But instead, reframing that to, okay, cool, I am a morning person. I have an extra 30 minutes in the morning, use that to write. And if you can only do 5 minutes or if you can only do 10 minutes, that's also okay because that is your normal. Stop comparing your normal to someone else's. And I was like,
Yeah. I like that.
that's good.
Yeah. I like that. So you have brought a book flight with you today. Can you tell us how you chose these books?
You know what? I probably debated over that longer than I should have. Like I said, it's really hard to pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to slightly adjust one answer.
Okay.
So I can't remember which category I put each book in, but I remember the books. Bound in Pincers by Nikita Bell. I'm going to
Okay.
switch out with The Bombshell Devil's Advocate by Nikita Bell. So still same
Okay.
author.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why that's important. She removed Bound in Pincers from publication, and she has now, I don't know what the correct word is, but like rejigged it, reformatted it, and just, expanded it
Okay.
into the
Oh,
bombshell advocate.
okay.
And I alpha rate this for her. And when I say alpha rate, take that with a pinch of salt because it was incredibly polished. Back in between September and October in 2024. So it's
Okay.
going to release in Feb, 6th of Feb,
Okay.
2025. Let me tell you, this book is one of my favorite books. Okay. I'm
Woohoo.
talking new adult fantasy, dark fantasy. It's also a hybrid graphic novel with the book, and she's
Oh,
designed all her own stuff, by the way, just so
wow.
you know. But this book, like, I can't tell you why it gets me so worked up in a good way because then I'm going to spoil it.
Yeah.
But October Winters, her main character, is the most badass character you have ever met. And she gives you permission to be different. And if someone doesn't like how different she is, she very much puts them on their place. And
Awesome.
I really think, 16-year-old me could have used someone like that to read about. So I could look and I could
Yeah.
go, oh, she's different. So that's okay because I can be different too. And I think I know Nikita didn't expect October Winters to become a role model,
Yeah.
um, but that's exactly what's happened.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I definitely have to pick that one up.
I would definitely recommend it.
Okay. And then what's the next book you brought today?
Yeah, so I am going with so what I mentioned earlier in the series, Relentless by Karen Lynch, but I have to specify it must be the first three
Okay.
because she's since released more, which is a different part of the world.
Okay.
I'm focusing on the first three. I just think the way she writes and the action and there's a world building aspect that she has written in this series that to this day does not cease to amaze me. And even though, so I mentioned I was rereading it, every time I reread it, I'm still gasping at the plot twist,
Yeah.
even though I know it's coming. That's how you know you've got a good story.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that was Relentless by Karen Lynch, or the series' first three books, or
Yeah.
at least speaking to that right now. And then what's the next book you brought today?
So, the Spark of the Everflame. So that's book one in the, I think I'm saying this right, Kindred Curse Saga by Penn Cole.
Okay.
Um, she was a late discovery for me. So a little bit of bookstagram drama. She was indie originally, and she released the first three books. It's a four-part series in rapid succession. And the pre-orders for book four was up, and then it just got pulled out of nowhere because she got picked up traditionally. So,
Oh, okay.
which is great. We love that for her,
Yeah.
like 100%. But she got met with a lot of backlash online because of that, and she actually had to like release a statement, which was like a little bit sad for her.
Yeah.
And book four hasn't been released yet. But that's why I dragged my heels so much about reading that series because I was like, oh, it's book talk hype. I'm not going to give in to book talk hype. Note, I said the same thing about Fourth Wing, and I took annual leave to read Iron Flame, just so you know.
Yeah.
So I know better at this point, but illusion of control. Um, anyway, I could not put that series down. I was, I think I mentioned to you that I was at a work event. I was like, "Can I squeeze a page in here?"
Yeah. I
I
gotta
was like,
know.
yeah, I was like, you can't leave me on that cliffhanger. And then I was like, okay, lunch break at work. I'm gonna go read. So for a book to get me that
Yeah, that
excited,
invested.
I was like, damn, that is a good story. And I would say it's familiar tropes that yeah, it's definitely familiar tropes.
Okay.
It's not a completely unique concept, but I think just the way that it was woven together into this overarching series got me really excited. And whether she takes another year, whether she takes another 3 years to release book four, she's got a fan in me.
Yeah. Awesome. So that was Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. And then
Yeah.
you have also brought a dessert pairing with you.
So one of the things I've had to start doing, well, I don't have to, I chose to, is reading writing craft books. So we have a mutual friend, Sarah Page.
Yeah.
Um, she gave me a few tips on books that she's read that have helped her, not just her writing craft, but her writing career. And like with all things Sarah, if she gives you advice, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to be solid. So I've kind of put my own spin on that, and I have started reading well, I've since finished The Emotion Thesaurus. I forgot the author.
You have Angela Ackerman?
Oh, there we go. Okay, Angela Ackerman. And what I learned from that book specifically is that I was totally overthinking describing emotion. And that was a huge lesson because you kind of get it into your head. Oh, I'm so bad at descriptions. I'm so bad at dialogues. I'm so bad
Yeah.
at weather. I'm so bad at whatever, replace it with whatever. But then you read a book like that on the craft and you're like, oh wait, I actually know this. Like I've got this. Like, sure, there's definitely a few helpful things I picked up there that I didn't know, but I was
Yeah.
like, this book has reminded me that I actually do know what I'm doing. And that was great.
Yeah. Always a good reminder for that. Thank you so much for bringing these books with you today. How I love to end our show is with our bonus pairings, which are just a speed round of questions. So,
Okay.
are you a rereader?
Yes, but I'm in a mood rereader.
Okay.
That part is important.
All right. What is one book you've read that has changed your life? I'm going to make it really hard for you.
So I have to go with, don't laugh at me, Cassandra Clare, her The Dark Artifices book series.
Yeah.
What I loved about that series specifically, she has each of her Shadowhunters worlds, it's completely lives on its own. So each trilogy is its own,
Okay.
but they all come together in a kind of like an overarching universe situation. And that the Dark Artifices one is probably the darkest series she's put out so far, but it is so good. So, so good. Like some of the things that she did, I was like, what? You
Yeah.
just did that. It was brave, it was bold, and I think it's that's a series I also reread a lot, believe it or
Okay.
not. That one specifically, not the entire Shadowhunter one.
But that one.
Yeah, that was the one that changed my life, reading life, I think.
Okay. Wonderful. And then where is your favorite place to read?
Ooh, Okay, so I can't read on the bed in bed because that immediately puts me to sleep. So that's a no. I like to get on the couch like under a blanket and like snuggle.
Yep.
Like how
Burrow
a
in.
beagle does, yeah. And then I have like a cool drink or something at the bottom there. And then I'm like there and think like when we were kids and we had the torch under the blanket, that kind
Yeah.
of concept.
Yep.
And then my husband knows that he can leave me for like 3 hours there and he'll come back and he'll still find
And
me in
your
the
little
same
book
place.
fort.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lastly, what are you reading next?
So I have developed this horrible habit of reading multiple books at once.
How many?
Um,
I do too. So just wondering where.
okay, we're opening the trusty Kindle again. So I have bought more books than I'm reading at the moment, which is a great problem to have. So I'm currently finishing up Anathema by Carrie Lake, and that one has taken me a little bit longer because I think there's something about the pacing that I'm struggling with. It's not a do not finish, it's different. I need
Yeah.
a little bit of time to process. Then I have to read One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. I think
Yes.
that's
I
how you
keep seeing that one.
and one of the bookstagrammers, I really trust her reviews. Like she's not gonna lie. She gave it a 5 star. She never gives 5 stars. And then she immediately bought the second one to carry on reading because it's a duology. So I
Okay.
was like, yeah, that's a good sign. And then I am probably gonna read Burning Glass by Elle Kaylee. It's book 2 in her series.
Yeah.
Um, Last Wings was one of the books that I finished on the plane. So I'm kind of between those three right now.
Fun
You
fact,
can,
her episode comes out next week.
oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hold on.
What
I'm
was-
like, I'm more just questioning myself. It actually comes out January 22nd. So listeners, you'll have already, this will come out, but it's January 22nd is her episode. So
that's I am very happy to hear that because I think Elle has got a fantastic future as an author. And let me tell you, when I read Glass Wings, the originality that I saw in that book, I actually messaged her afterwards and I was like, your brain is incredible. Like,
yeah.
there's no other way to say it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today. I know your time is precious and I appreciate all you've given me.
Thank you. This has been great. And thank you so much for having me on yet.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with Stephanie Storm. To see all the books we talked about, you can head on over to bookishflights.com. That is also where you can find more information about today's book flight or other books that we talked about. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Your review not only helps the show, but it also helps the podcast to reach others. Make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make sure you will not miss an episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As Emma Thompson said, I think books are like people in the sense that they'll turn up in your life when you most need them. Cheers to you, dear readers. Until next time.